Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Motion Pictures. I'm your host, Ewan Graf, and today, this is the first, if you're watching this on video, this is the first video version of it. Temporary set. I'm in a cinema right now, and on this show, I talk about a movie, a film, and a motion picture each week. A movie is a new release. A film can be both old and new, but it at least has to be good, and a motion picture has to be older than me. Balding here. Born 1998, which, you know, to some that might be ancient, to others they're like, I'm way older than you, but it's just a criteria for us to pick movies. Today we are taking a look at the latest Nobody film, the sequel to that movie, Nobody 2. That will be our movie of the week. Our film of the week is A Bittersweet Life from 2005. From the South Korean filmmaker Kim Jae-won, known for his films I Saw the Devil and A Tale of Two Sisters. And finally, our motion picture is a samurai revenge story from 1967 by the Harakiri, Kwaidan, and the Human Condition director Masaki Kobayashi. And I have lots to say about that one. I think that one's the most intriguing, I gotta say, for, like, you know, just revenge filmmaking as a whole. So stick around or skip ahead. I don't mind. Timecodes are linked below, as always. If you enjoy the show, please also consider leaving a rating over on Spotify and Apple. Subscribing on YouTube all helps to keep the pay for me to record in a cinema. No, I work here. And then in the future, I think this is not our final setup for the next couple of episodes. I will be recording in a cinema. There's a week that I'll probably gone in Venice that I'll skip. But then I'm working on having a sort of different set than just my computer setup for those who watch the Quiet on Set podcast or know this channel, for it to be like slightly different. But let's kick it off with our movie of the week, which is Nobody 2. And I did like the first one. It was made by 87 North Production, which was founded by David Leitch and Kelly McCormick. After John Wick 3, it was like the first Nobody was the first project they did in 2021. Then they went on to direct Bullet Train, which also David Leitch directed. J.J. Perry did Day Shift, a Violent Night, a fourth John Wick film. And then David Leitch directed another movie called The Fall Guy, and the unfortunate films that they've released so far were Love Hurts and the John Wick spin-off Ballerina. Those were all under the 87 North Production, which comes out of someone, you know, with David Leitch, who is predominantly a stunt director and coordinator, and you can see that in all of those films. That definitely the stunts are the highlight, and are like at the center of those films more than sometimes the story is, right? There's the actual focus. And yeah, they already have 2 new films lined up for 2026. How to Rob a Bank, that's going to be directed by David Leitch once again. And they also have a sequel for Silent Night coming out. I think the sort of expectation that you can have when it's a production from the studio is that the action is going to deliver. If it's John Wick, which is more shoot, 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 or Violent Night, which is, I guess, brawl, big guy, has a big old sack and a long white beard, or Day Shift, when there's Day Shift had cool finishers. I don't think the individual fight scenes were that great. Ballerina had some, like, a lot of, like, really long fight scenes, and Love Hurts just kind of didn't connect. But you get what I mean. You can sort of expect a certain like trade of movie that will be delivered to you. And I think the first Nobody wasn't as comedic. It definitely leaned more into the sort of story of this is a retired guy who is a legend in a way, and you don't want to wake the beast, but it's like he doesn't want to go back to that life. And I think they continue on that storyline kind of loosely in a way that he's now fully pulled back into the life and wants to once again escape it, but there's a debt to be paid, and he also is lacking in just spending time with his family and being there for them, which ultimately, spoiler review for all of the 3 films, but I'll give you adequate warning because I do really want you to go see the Samurai Rebellion film over on Criterion, and A Bittersweet Life as well. Is that the family is way more in on it. Like, that's not where the conflict is from, that there's like he's selfish about doing this for a living. That's less the issue. it is more that he's not open to communicate like the boundaries of when he's working and when he's with family, which is a bit like, it's tricky because like that life often requires you to just do right then and there, because otherwise people will come down on you who like are your boss, and if you have a falling out with them, then family can get dragged into it and all that. But here it sees them go on a family vacation. And I think another notable thing is the director, who I'm not too familiar with. He did like some of the episodes of VHS 2 and VHS 95. I think most people love his work in The Night Comes for Us. That's streaming over on Netflix. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, but Shadow Strays, which came out last year, I did see. I did not love that. That's Timo Jajanto. I don't know if I butchered that. An Indonesian filmmaker who's also, I guess, really versed in action filmmaking. So there's that sort of pairing that should work out neatly with 87 North production. I think it's also lessening the stakes in a way where even in the first one, I guess, I wasn't really worried for any of the characters, like his dad, to die or get killed at the end. In that shootout, which was pretty crazy, or for him to bite a bullet. And in this one, even less so, because you feel like, hey, maybe there is some stakes with the family, that someone gets taken out or taken or whatever, and he has to save them or avenge them or unleash this inner beast, which is not the case, because I like that like part of the film where it leans into him kind of seeking out this violence, that he's kind of addicted to it, that he's drawn to it, and he does not really want to escape it, more than he's forced back into it because something bad is being done to him. It's a bunch of decisions that he makes to keep dragging himself into sorting out this mess, right? Because they arrive in this small town where he has memories of going there with his dad and his brother to this park, and turns out that maybe the dad even was there on a mission, so that gets like kind of, even the best childhood memory is one that is flawed in retrospect, and it's sort of coming to terms with what sort of father he is. But I think none of these like themes are like explored in any sort of way, because we got a duck boat fight, and I think it's way more leaning into the one-liners, the sort of the badassery that happens off screen as he goes back in. Like the myth of him is way more being set up in this, less so than you are like feeling like, okay, he's on the older side, will he be able to pull through and pull it off? It's like, I was not thinking that for a single moment in this film, which doesn't really bode well for an action film. You do want like the Babu Yaga of John Wick, just like, it's just a spectacle of seeing him do crazy stunts and action and killing and whatever, and that's what we're here for. We don't want much more beyond that, because he doesn't really talk. But if you have like someone who's involved with a family, you might want something a bit more. I think it just like ends up getting to resolve this conflict, which I said before is basically him not spending enough time with his family, not with what he's doing, but with how he goes about it, that they are not the priority, not that he's doing something which is dangerous. The wife seems to be okay with that. Connie Nielsen, which also she gets a bigger part to play in this film. And this Sharon Stone as the crazy antagonist. I'm forgetting and blanking on the name of the guy who plays the sheriff, but he's also there. There's a bunch of dynamics, like someone getting kidnapped, the parallels of like, having a teenage son that's about the same. You get all of the themes that are very, like, I don't know if they're even worth discussing, because they're in your face. They're pretty simple. There's nothing to really discuss or analyze. I think it's decent entertainment. If you like action, then there's better stuff out there. Go watch Ghost Killer, for example, out on streaming. That one's pretty good. Takeshi Kitano's Broken Rage is pretty fun as well, leaning even more into the comedy bits. It's just an hour long as well. If you want to go out in theaters, I guess nobody too. You probably wouldn't have wasted your time, but I'm giving it like a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's that great. But let's talk about an actual really good movie. Can give it away already. I gave these next two both a 9 out of 10. In A Bittersweet Life, Son-woo is tasked with shadowing his boss's mistress to find out if she's cheating on him. If so, he's supposed to kill her. But Son-woo doesn't want to kill her. He's a ruthless killer, the best. The standard trope for this type of film, I gotta say. Nobody is kind of the same that way. Samurai also Samurai Rebellion has that same sort of trope of like, ooh, the legacy of this guy, or like, oh, you don't want to fuck with him, you don't want to unleash the beast. I think in this, it's also working out well, although compared to the other two films, the playing field is pretty level. Like the discrepancy between like how skilled these fighters are is like there's the least gap in this film. And in preparation for Cobweb, which played in Gun 2 years ago, I did end up watching I Saw the Devil, which is deliciously fucked up. That is really, truly fucked up movie. And over 2 years later now, I got to see A Bittersweet Life, and I can't wait to watch even more of his films. There's a lot more that I'm quite excited about. I gotta say the lead, Lee Byung-hun, he's incredible. Most will know him for his role in the 3 seasons of Squid Game as the front man, but he was also the lead in I Saw the Devil. He starred alongside Song Kang-ho in Joint Security Area. And this movie, A Bittersweet Life, is like, it's fucked up. It's like brutal. It's incredibly well put together. What he does so well is like every time this character has to make a big decision about like he's captured, so he's trying to make a run for it. Like, how does he escape? We spend 15-20 seconds with him in his POV, just like looking around, scanning, not to like find the magic solution of out of all of his problems, like a weapon that he can grab and then he's fine or something like that. It's just more him scanning the situation, and then also letting it breathe for him to like having to make a decision of something, like going up against like 20 people and trying to like get out alive. And by the end of the film, I think these decisions get like way like they're not as weighted anymore. They're way quicker. Like the moment when he first has, again, spoilers, the moment when he first has to decide, when he catches her cheating, if he should kill the mistress and her lover. That moment is even longer than the one when later on he gets captured, like he gets buried alive, makes it back up, and then scans the room. And then by the time we get to like the nightclub or the club scene, like in the end, there's barely a moment of like reflection until he's like finally, again, big spoilers, at his deathbed and dying. And then the interpretations go crazy of what you could read into it. Like you could see it, this whole thing, as I've seen some people say that it's like all a dream in a way, that like he's reflecting back on like her playing cello and smiling at him, as if that's like this sort of fantasy of him, like how hard it would be to have gone through on this revenge trail, and ultimately in actual reality he probably ended up killing her, just went through with whatever he was tasked to do. I don't think that was the intention of the filmmaker. I think there was like some interviews that they did at some point. I don't really care, because like at the end of the day, I think a movie like this, you can also have your own interpretation, and maybe you read it slightly wrong, or how differently it was, maybe it was differently intended, but it doesn't really matter. I think to me it was like, at the first time, I'm jumping straight to the end of the film, is when he imagines her playing cello, smiling at him. It's like abruptly broken apart when he gets shot in the chest and dies. But then it fades to black, and there's like another moment where I thought, oh, the credits will roll, and I thought that would be really powerful of how like anticlimactic this sort of like idealized thing of he's done this for her, and this is his act of love, and all of the violence that he like perpetrates, and like the underlying like classical music that is often accompanying really violent scenes, which felt kind of contradictory in a way of showing this like symphony of violence for the sake of spectacle, but then also the sort of indecision that in itself is a decision of like not doing something and letting people go. That like not doing something can be just as dangerous, just as powerful. As there's like a ton of that in there, a ton of like rich themes that you can spot while you watch it. And spot might be like, you're not playing detective work of like, okay, let's break this movie down, but more in the sense of this is emotionally engaging in how I'm looking into his eyes, and I can see all of like the sort of, because he falls for her in a way, like I maybe idealizes this sort of, not even, she's not like that innocence, it's not really in that condescending, almost sexist way of just looking at someone and feeling like, oh, she needs protection. It's almost like for him also a way out of this cycle, which for him ultimately the only way out of the cycle is what he gets by the end. He dies. There's no real other way of him to like escape this, but along the way he ended up saving a person that he really wanted to save, and I found that quite beautiful. And I mean, the movie opens with I can't remember who says it, but like there's a tree and the branches are like kind of blowing in the wind, and then it's like I think someone asks, are the branches moving or is the wind moving them? And then someone else says, your heart and mind are the ones that make them move. And I found that like really poignant. And you might be wondering, like, oh, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? It's not your heart and mind that move them, but like it's sort of, if you, I don't know, to me it's like if you don't have a heart and mind in place, then nothing is really moving. To be moved, to even have like a soul and something to live for, you do have to have these things, otherwise things aren't moving. I didn't put that well, but I don't know, I found it just like really a beautiful way to like start off the movie, really contemplative for ultimately like a movie that features so much action. And I think one of the highlights is definitely like the cinematography, the amount of shots that we go to POV back to like a sort of over the shoulder while he's fighting, into like a side view of the fight, and then we break the 180-degree like line, right, jumping onto the other side of for coverage of the line of sight. I don't know what it's called. It's just the 180-degree rule, and it really like throws you in how disorienting this fight is to like find his footing and get the upper hand again. And I think that was so well done. That just his intro as well. It is something that I guess Bong Joon-ho did as well in Memories of Murder. Like the drop kicking is something that I guess South Korean action cinema, they did love that in the early 2000s. This one is from I think 2006, right? And then Memories of Murder was I think 2000. But it's badass. And I do want to give a shout out to the cinematographer Kim Jae-young, who also shot Decision to Leave, and I think that should be enough to tell you what kind of filmmaker he is. Working with Park Chan-wook in the incredible like transition work in that movie, and here it's just as well done. Like shooting through doors, like the depth of a scene is always like so thought out that it's just really beautifully shot, and not just for the sake of like the praise of there's action and we don't cut like that much, right? We stay in the wide, we get to see the fighting happening. There's barely like a gun by the time a gun is introduced into the film. It's at the very end, and before that, before that it is a lot of like hand fighting, kicking, knives. There's a real variety of different sort of action styles. The one decision that you make that makes everyone flip and go against you is also something that in revenge stories, I guess, often gets explored, that like sort of breaking a certain bit of loyalty or someone holding too much power and it being exploitative, and as soon as you go up against that, your full force, like their full force comes back at you. I thought the music was also beautiful. Her playing cello and that classical music being like infused under all of those scenes felt less like it was doing the the Deadpool thing of you have a song playing a popular song and you have violence over it, like, which is meaningless. But here it felt more like whenever there was a classical tune that was like an extension of her that was alongside him. Not like that directly, but that's something that like I'd love to read and listen to a few more interviews that Kim Jae-won gave. But I think there's a bunch on the DVD commentary, but I don't own the film on DVD, unfortunately. But yeah, I like theories that you can make about it, that it's seemingly all imagined. I like the thing of at the end, like the lights turning off as if like his life is fading away. And him shadowboxing at the end also is, to me, that was a bit like too direct of, making me wonder, okay, is he battling himself and he's losing, or like what is that directly supposed to mean? I didn't think like that very end I needed, but it's fine. Like I didn't hate it. Also, I haven't addressed it yet, but I like I popped a nasty pimple, and it's like on this camera even more than on others. It's like it looks so red. Looks like I gotta talk like this. Anyways, let's talk about the final film of the day, which is Masaki Kobayashi's Samurai Rebellion for our motion picture of the week. This filmmaker Kobayashi is one of the most important filmmakers that I think often doesn't get really talked about outside of the cinephile like Letterboxd crowd. If you look on Letterboxd specifically in the top 250, there's 6 of his films that are on that list, and they rank really really high. We got Quiden, then Samurai Rebellion, then we have all 3 parts of The Human Condition. They are like it's spot number 30 for part 2. Part 1 is at spot number 10, and then number 3 is at all the way at ranked 4th on that list. And then there's actually one that's ranked even higher. Harakiri is currently on Letterboxd the highest rated film of all time. And I mean, I can second that. It's like one of the films that I gave a 5-star rating to on the first watch. It is something that like sneaks up on you, especially on those movies that like are so well appraised. You sometimes go into it and it's like, okay, I don't see a 5-star movie in the first 20 minutes. When are you grabbing me? And you often don't really realize how it's like slowly getting you there, and then by the end you're like so immensely moved that you're like, never mind, you guys were all right. After this one though, after Samurai Rebellion, which came out, let me check real quick, in 1962, he didn't make another film that ended up being on the Letterboxd 250. I think he made like 1 or 2 other ones that were like pretty decently acclaimed, but nothing that was back on the level of like those films that he made, I think mainly in the 50s. He had an incredible run of almost like 6. There's this one movie in between, but like almost all 6 of his films he made like back to back to back to back to back to back. Truly impressive. But this one feels like it's sort of, because it is so early from, I guess it's almost late 60s. It does feel a bit older because the film itself is set in 1732. I actually do have it somewhere in my notes, but can't see it right now. I didn't write it down. But I'm pretty sure that it's like 1725 actually. It's not really a classic tale of revenge in the way of like, I think in revenge, for revenge tale, something needs to be taken from you. Maybe you act out of not just rebellion, which this one is more of a samurai rebellion movie than it is a revenge movie. It is more about like defying an injustice, like sort of acting up against it. I mean, neither in Nobody 2 he loses anything, right? There's nothing that he needs avenged truly. Same goes for A Bittersweet Life. There's nothing really that like he needs to avenge. It's not like the guy kills the mistress and now he's on like a path to avenge her. And in this as well, it's a story about like a family, the Samasoro family. Actually, let me check. Sazahara. And the father in the family is played by Tishiro Mifune, who is an absolute legend. If you look at his filmography, it is crazy. He did Seven Samurai, he did Rashomon, High and Low, Yojimbo and Sanshoru, Redbeard, Throne of Blood. Like, that's just the stuff that he did with Akira Kurosawa. And he's worked with some other incredible filmmakers. It's him at the center of the story, this sort of legendary samurai that everyone knows he's the best. You don't want to fight against him. And for the most part of the story, he doesn't get out a sword to actually fight. It's not like he has laid down the weapon. If it needs to be wielded, if he needs to swing, then he will. It's just that everything leading up to it is this whole story, right? You do want to, not that you want to at all costs avoid the bloodshed. That's not even the case in this film. It is more that like knowing that blood will be shed means there will be bloodshed on both sides, and you do kind of want to avoid that, especially if the stakes are up against you, not for you yourself, but for the people you are fighting for. And he is fighting for his son and his new wife that have a kid on the way, gets born in the span of the movie as well, a little daughter. And the wife came from initially the lord of the land of I think Edo. I think it is like the I guess I don't know if it's yeah, it's still feudal Japan. That was like the Tokyo before Tokyo was Tokyo. He has taken her as a wife to like bear his heir because there's only one other male heir in line, and just to be, he wants a couple more, and he has a kid with her, and then lets her go, and then wants her back because there's something up with the heir that he's like next in line or something like that. Like that's a sort of like there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of meetings and rooms and talks that very easily you're just sometimes wondering what's going on, what's happening, because a lot of them are like the insistence of just kind of adhering to the rules of this lord can be pretty ridiculous, and people are so in this like Japanese culture back in the 18th century, maybe even something that carries through to present day still, are so caught up with like keeping the honor of a family that like any sort of acting up against loyalty can get your whole family basically kicked out. And then it's more about like, how do we deal with this injustice when the father is so mad, truly mad about like the wife being taken, because he has sort of reinvigorated his life through the love of his child. Like he is basically so happy for them to be like a granddad, and like not in a way that maybe you'd think he'd show it. It's like all of it is, maybe I'm using it wrong, but it feels also like stoic, where there's like an outburst of emotion more in like how loud you get and like how firm you say something. Like he says, he basically makes them promise to never leave each other. As sort of how beautiful their love is, and like that they have to persist through this injustice. I like then Ichi's character, which is the wife who gets taken. Unfortunately, she takes a bit of like a lesser part in the latter half of the film because she's like taken and we don't really see, or you don't see her perspective at all. But it is not a revenge film that is all about like, kill, kill, kill. It's more about like talk, talk, talk. How do we not even solve it, because a lot of it feels like it is just urging them again and again to reconsider, maybe actually think about it again, what that would mean, and then just like rephrasing it in a different way to getting them to concede to not fight for Ichi, for her to be back, essentially. And basically, because they don't give up, they are like then ordered to commit seppuku, which is harakiri, the like disembowelment of your of your guts, to like preserve honor for the family, because otherwise the family will have no honor anymore. I think at one point I did believe that there was a sort of outcome where we got this legendary fighter who will fight them off, and I just didn't really know the scale of just how many people this lord would have at his disposal to like send at him, because initially when there is a standoff, when there is finally fighting, it is pretty dramatic because again, spoilers, do go see this film, but like Ichi takes her life. The husband goes to her, also gets stabbed, also dies, and then the father makes it out, killing all of them, taking the baby with him. And then there's also this other. The movie starts off with like two great fighters, basically like not using their swords to fight, but more to just kind of, I don't know, like training, and they're like urged to like, hey, fight and practice and whatever. And he's like, then that guy's later ordered to take them out, and he says, well, either like promote me, so it is my jurisdiction, otherwise I'm just in charge of the border, the gate that like no one gets out, or like they have a permission to go out. And then by the end of the film he does need to go out, and ultimately it does lead to that fight where like, because the other guy doesn't really want to fight him, he doesn't really see him as his enemy, maybe his rival, but to preserve his honor as a samurai, he does have to enter a fight that he knows he will die. And feels really contradictory, right? Because it's like a sort of quiet understanding for the both of them that like, I don't know, he like pleads for him to like let him win, because ultimately they both end up dead. The baby gets picked up. Like, why did that other guy also have to die, right? He's basically pleading for that because that's ultimately what will happen. And the question is, if he were a bit faster, maybe he would get out. But yeah, that felt just really tragic with everyone but the baby dead. And he has like sort of really dramatic final moments to the babies. It's like, marry a man just like your father. It's hard for these revenge stories to have someone at the core that you can see as a good person, because at one point or another, because they are killing so many people, you are wondering if you are. You can't just be still a good person, because you need to go through so many others to get to the person that you actually maybe want. That's often the case, like, and for me, it's like somewhat hard to root for them. You do have to see the violence a bit, like, to be a bit pretty mindless almost, as if you're sort of disconnected from yourself. And then I do like when the theme is explored of like how that's really breaking them apart. In this, I sort of did get that contemplation. It is way more rooted in what your roles are, what your profession is, and your profession being your whole life's work. And if you are insufficient in your life's duty, then your life is over anyways. So for these samurai, or even for the I don't know if they're all samurai, or some of them which is fighters or soldiers, for their life to be killed, just for that lord to carry out his, like, stubbornness of keeping Ichi, and then going after him because he's, I don't know, taken the baby and then killed a bunch of them. Obviously they do want him to die because they want some sort of law and rule to be upheld. Or I don't know, it feels also pretty petty, because they I mean, he's a criminal, I guess, in their mind, so they would take him out. But for him, like for me, that was one of the rare instances where I felt like the revenge person didn't fully transition into being just like violent for no reason whatsoever. Although he's not holding back. He's definitely also the action scenes in this are pretty well done as well. Although they're like, for the 60s, pretty simple overall. They're quite well staged. There's some moments that like are like push-ins or like just cut-ins as well, of like ultra close-ups of the eyes, and it could read like, nowadays if you do that, you'd have to over stylize it and make it peppy and like have to be upbeat and have a certain maybe ironic nature to it as well. But here it was like played completely earnest, and it worked so much. And I think a lot of it comes back to Tishori Mifune being such an incredible actor. I was blown away. I can't wait to watch more of his films. I haven't seen a ton of Akira Kurosawa films, but yeah, that one was quite impressive. But yeah, also gave this a 9 out of 10. So let's take a look ahead for what's on the schedule next week. I guess later this week, because this episode is kind of late, because I did want to change to video as well. So this Friday, I'm gonna talk about Neja 2, which I already got to see, and the English dub by A24 is releasing in American theaters, in US theaters this Friday. And then also Splitsville, my favorite film of the year so far. A hilarious comedy is out in limited release, and then I think on September 3rd or something like that, September 5th, is when we are getting a wide release for that film. And then the only thing I haven't seen yet, that I do have to see before the recording of next week's show, is An Elephant Sitting Still, which is like a 4-hour long Chinese movie. I thought that like we have Neja 2, pure entertainment, and An Elephant Sitting Still is sort of more of the I guess artistic side of Chinese cinema. But looking forward to that. Again, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think about like my pimple, especially, because Jesus Christ, I didn't have anything to cover it up. So sorry, I should have talked like this the whole time. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, leave a like, subscribe, rate, whatever you can do, and let me know what you'll be watching this week. Again, got 2 more episodes, even one while I'm in Venice, hopefully. But subscribe to the other channels, like and the socials, because I'll keep you up to date with a bit more short form content as well if I can. about everything that we end up seeing in Venice. There's some great film stuff. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Keep watching movies like I will. Lean back and watch some more movies on this big screen.